Let's do a daily delivery debate with Velle Neal III today. My goodness, Lavelle, plenty to talk about. The Twins had one of the most, if not the most significant trade deadlines that I can remember. Maybe in franchise history, this has got to be up there. It just kept coming and coming and coming. Probably the biggest shocker, of course, being Carlos Correa. We learned, a couple hours before the deadline Thursday that he is going back to the Astros, waiving his no trade clause. Some money changing hands in terms of that big contract and what the Twins are still owing on that. But man, like, from a position of we don't know if they're going to make any moves at all, like a week ago, I think maybe you even said something to me or said something on social media, like, I don't know if they're going to make any trades. And it wasn't outlandish to think they might not, to all of these moves, including Correa, Joan Duran, Brock Stewart, Chris Paddock. Obviously, that's not too much of a surprise. Harrison Bader, not a huge surprise, but like some of the guys that went on a scale of 1 to 10, Lavelle, how surprised are you at what has happened during this trade deadline?
Oh, 10 for sure.
Wow, 10. You go straight to a 10. I love it.
Yeah. I just want to point out that tweet I went out was just for entertainment purposes mostly. The intent was to agitate the people who agitate me on a daily basis.
Okay.
Just to make them feel tormented over the fact that the Twins may not do anything during this trade deadline, which
it worked.
It did work. So, but when Chris Paddock was traded on Monday, I was like, yep, it's going to go down. And I had my list in the paper, the guys I thought were easily most tradable. I thought Castro was at the top, followed by from Griffin Jacks. I would have traded Jacks instead of Duran, but the Phillies are trying to win. They needed a closer, so I get that. But moments ago, before we logged on here to do this, we just learned of the Carlos Correa trade with Houston.
Yeah.
So now we're both flipping flabbergasted. This is extensive. This is seismic to me.
Yeah.
This to me is one of the most impactful weeks of dealing in Twins history. We were talking before we went on 2017 when they traded Eduardo Escobar and Brian Dozier. 2018, yeah. Escobar and Dozier and Ryan Presley in the same week. That was pretty decisive, but this is even more. You traded someone who's the best at his business in Durant. You also traded an all-star, a guy who's supposed to come here and be a cornerstone of the team, who has failed to do that. His Twins career has not been like his Astros career. And that's what the Twins were paying for. They never got it from Carlos Correa. They're paying him $36 million this year, not anymore. And they had another, $90 million to go on his contract. To move that salary, I don't care what they get back. They could send back the mascot for all I'm concerned. They were able to get out from under that contract. That helps them, gives them financial flexibility going forward, regardless if it's this regime or another regime, if there's new ownership. It rids them of a headache, to me, Carlos Correa has become, because you've been waiting for the payoff. You've been waiting for him to hit like an elite athlete, which has come in spurts. I'm not saying he's been totally terrible at the plate. There's been times where he's been great. Last year, he was great till he got hurt again. He was good 2 years ago, the second half of the season or late in the season. But the Twins have not gotten what they paid for in that regard. And I'm glad it's time to move on and get out from under there. And that's the thing. Once you start operating on a higher economic level or start playing that money game, signing guys to big contracts, you got to be as adept to get out of those contracts as you are to get into them. I remember a couple of years ago, the New York Mets had both Justin Verlander and Max Scherzer in their rotation. And by midseason, they were going nowhere. And they moved both those guys, saved $40 million, and got under the luxury tax threshold. And you've got to be able to do that. And it worked out because Correa still lived in Houston. He was willing to waive his no trade. So it worked out for both sides. We don't know the details of who was moved yet. We will, in the coming minutes or hours. But that is a huge plus. I like the return they got for Duran. The Phillies have a top 5 farm system, and they got the 3rd and the 6th best prospect from that farm system. That's 2 guys with upside. They need catching prospects in the organization behind, because there's nothing really behind Ryan Jeffers. The starter had a 2.7 ERA in AAA. He's made 6 major league starts. He's got talent. He needs to fine tune his control. Hopefully that comes with getting more experience, and maybe the Twins, this new pitching factory that Falvey has, maybe you plug him in and he comes out a better pitcher. We will see. Harrison Bader move was not bad at all. They got back an outfielder who can hit. He doesn't hit for power, but he can hit a little bit. So curious to see how that turns out. And a 16-year-old pitcher, I believe, who's just starting his career. So, and I'm missing. Would you want to go back to Paddock too now, or what?
We got a Paddock. Oh, and even in the time since we started recording, they have traded Danny Coulomb to the Rangers also. So not a surprise there. We don't know what it's for, but like we can't even safely record at any point here. Like we almost started recording before the Correa news. We had to sit tight on that for a little while till
Is
that
that
actually.
6 guys now? Is that 6?
Yeah,
players?
that's 6 guys. It is 6 guys. It's 7 if you count Dobnik, which I don't really. But you got Paddock, Bader, Duran, Coulomb, Correa,
yeah,
and
we're missing one person.
Brock Stewart.
Brock Stewart,
so 6.
Yeah.
6
Brock
guys. Yeah, it's a. This I mean this. Okay, now so I'm not at a 10. I guess everything that's happened is probably like at least an 8 though in terms of like the level of surprise that they would deal.
I'm at 10.
This many guys. I mean, maybe Correa pushes me to a 9 or 10. Like that's a stunner. Like that's like you're into kind of fire sale territory now. You're into a full on reset here. Like this is not just like, oh, this didn't work out this year. This is kicking the can a little bit past 2026, it feels like. So here's the next question. Is Derek Falvey the guy that's going to be making the decisions on how the next kind of group of players comes together? Or is this, I don't know. It feels like this fell apart enough, and with new ownership potentially coming in, that this could be Falvey's last stand to me.
Well, I mean, that's a fair question. I tend to think the Falvey's gonna be around. Now, that's tough to say because usually when new owners come in, they want to bring in their own people. I think Falvey comes with enough respect from other in league circles to make a case for him to stay. You could also point to the fact that after the Twins won the postseason series, Falvey was told to cut payroll by $30 million. Lost Sonny Gray. That didn't work out. And then last offseason, they were going to hold payroll, and they didn't give Falvey $10 million to spend until like January, if I'm not mistaken. And that's when they got Harrison Bader, and that's when they signed Coulomb, and that's when they signed Ty France. So is that Falvey's doing? No. And I think we're also at a point now where we're starting to see starting pitching prospects kind of filter through the organization as well. It's taken longer than I think a lot of us wanted to see happen, but it looks like it is happening. So you can, and also Falvey and Thad Levine oversaw the Twins emerging from the dark ages when it came to embracing analytics and all the technology that's out there. The Twins were a mom and pop organization, and behind the scenes, I know fans are getting mad when they hear this, but the Pohlats spent millions of dollars building out the research department, beefing up staffs, and increasing the number of people behind the scenes. I go to the ballpark now. I don't know who in the hell these people are. I used to know everyone in the Twins organization because it was small. You could meet people and know who they are. I don't know half the people that work for the Twins now because there's so many of them, and they're all a bunch of young people too. And then they've tried to address their the training and the health department by hiring Chris Camp. All this what happened under Falvey's watch. So I think he could build a case to stay. If the Twins aren't sold, I think he's definitely staying. If they are sold, I still like his chances.
I don't know, because this year it fell apart. Like we can evaluate, and we can evaluate the trades at face value. And I did a grade on the Duran trade, and I think the haul they got was reasonable. They got 2 top 100 MLB prospects. One of them who's already played in the majors. The other one's more of a we don't know. He's a catcher at high A right now, but 2 guys from a good farm system. That's a pretty good haul for even a guy who's got 2 1/3 years of team control left, an elite closer. They got another good prospect, looked like from the Phillies for Bader. I don't love necessarily the Brock Stewart trade, but sometimes with relievers you never know. He could get hurt at any moment. You never know what's going to happen.
History this is one where they're selling high because Brock's injury history is extensive. The Twins told me privately they were happy that they got through like 6 weeks with him before something broke down. So I think that moving on from him at this time, when him pitching well and being relatively healthy, is actually a good time to do it.
I don't like getting back an outfielder named Outman. Outman. I joked on Twitter, they have enough outmen on the team already, Lavelle.
Yes, they do. They do. And he's an intriguing guy because he's shown power in the minors. Plays the hell out of the outfield, apparently. Can play all over left, center, and right. But he, except for his first year when he hit 23 homers, he really hasn't been able to channel his power in a major league level. So he faced the Twins a couple weeks ago when the Twins were in LA. So he's a recognizable name. Maybe he can getting out of LA and getting somewhere where he can relax and maybe come to a smaller market and be himself and rediscover his swing. So we'll see if that's a sneaky good move for them moving forward.
Man, what a day though. I mean, just the level of everything that's going on here. I mean, this is, to me, the underlying thing, like I said, is this is an admission that whatever the plan was, whatever the plan was, it didn't work this year. Like they punted, like, this time last year, think about that. Like this time last year, they're thinking they're a lock for the playoffs. They're cruising towards the playoffs in 2024. And, Joe Ryan gets hurt. Everything goes to hell last season. And then they go into spring this year saying, hey, we learned a lot from the 12-27 finish. We're going to be better. And they just weren't. So at a certain point, they had to look themselves in the mirror and say, what's happened in the last basically calendar year is no longer the outlier, right?
I think you're right. The other thing, Mike, I just think this, and I got to write about this now because I've been asked to do a story on attendance dropping. But what they did after 2023, I just think this is still biting them from cutting the payroll by $30 million following winning their first postseason series since 2002. I just think that's still just carrying over from that, because you tell me who the Twins' best leadoff hitter is. You tell me what their number 3 hitter is. They're not getting production from first base. They're not getting production from DH. How in the hell is Rocco supposed to fill out a lineup on a daily basis with these guys, half of them which are underachieving? Now, is that his fault? Maybe you could possibly put it on him. Maybe not saying the right things to people, and maybe with a mid to lower market team, you've got to be able to learn how to do more with less. And, I mean, if you want to hang out on Rocco, we can have a discussion about that. But these guys haven't gotten it done, and it's the players that Falvey has given him, and Falvey's gotten his marching orders from ownership. So I don't know. I can't lump one guy unless we lump up all 3 arms of this, and we may be close to doing that, to be honest with you.
Well, that's a good point. I mean, let's end with this thought on this team. I mean, the pitching has had injuries the last couple of years. Joe Ryan last year, Paddock to a degree. Obviously, the Pablo Lopez injury this season. They were 7 games over 500 when he got hurt, and then they went in the tank, and it didn't help that Zebby got hurt. Ober was terrible. Like, the pitching has fallen apart. But what's been most disappointing is that all of these young hitters have either kind of stalled out or regressed. These high draft pick guys, Royce Lewis, Trevor Larnach, Matt Wallner, Ryan Jeffers. Jeffers is okay, but like Ryan Jeffers, Brooks Lee, like all these guys who should be kind of ready to carry an offense or be dangerous, are just guys right now. And that's the biggest. That's got to be the most disappointing thing in all this, because they've been healthy largely.
I thought they'd be a top 10 offense again. They were 10th in runs scored last year. And I said, well, with better health, these guys should be taking a step further. Buxton's been the guy. He's been there up until this last week and a half. He's been that guy. No one else has. And it's been rough to see. And I wrote that they were going to score runs this year, and I was wrong, because they just haven't gotten it done. The Twins have they fired their hitting staff after last year and brought back a bunch of new hitting coaches, and it's not clicking either. No. You can look at it different ways too. Because I remember when Joe Mauer came up, he was batting 8th for the first 2 months before Gardy started moving him up. I think Jeter was batting 6th for the Yankees when he first got called up, and he had to prove himself for a while before he moved up. They've had to use Brooks Lee in the top 3. They've had to use Larnach as a leadoff hitter. They put Wallner right in the middle of the heart of the order. And I wonder if they're just on teams with more capable hitters and more veteran hitters, that they would have been breaking a little more slowly. I don't know if that will help or not. Once again, that's on Correa. Correa could have been the guy in the middle of that all making it easier from some other guys. Royce Lewis has had 700 plate appearances now in the majors. It's time to expect a little bit more from him. He should be the guy making it easier for some other guys as well. So it's just been really frustrating to see how this offense has failed to ignite.
Ultimately, the final question here for you is this, Lavelle. What was a worse Twins free agent signing, Carlos Correa or Josh Donaldson?
Wow. Donaldson, I'm going to say, because the reason they signed Josh Donaldson because they thought they had a clubhouse full of like nice, solid citizens, and no one would fire, and he was supposed to bring the fire. Well, he brought a fire tornado with him,
A smoky tornado. Yeah.
it was the opposite of the spectrum. He just brought too much to the whole thing with Lucas Giolito when they're on the team bus trying to leave the ballpark, and Donaldson says Giolito and just runs out to talk to him. So you got something to say to me. Half the team was like, "Oh my God, they're going to fight." The other half was like, "Oh, grab your popcorn," and it was a daily thing with him. He was an okay player for that year, right? But the Twins realized they had to move on quickly, and thank God that the Yankees wanted Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, whatever his last name is,
Kiner-Falefa, yeah.
Kiner-Falefa, because they wouldn't have been able to get them to take on. Well, if you want this guy, you got to take on Josh Allen's salary. Well, if you want us to do that, then you have to take on Gary Sanchez. Gladly take that. Move forward. Once again, the Twins twice now have been adept at moving away from a bad contract. That is a skill you need to have if you're going to take these steps out in the deep end of the free agent pool.
I think Correa was the worst contract just because it was worth more than twice as much, and I just feel like he was good, really good postseason in 2023. Like we'll always have that, and unfortunately, like his injury last season was a huge part of that too because he was having a very good season before he got hurt. But he's had basically since he signed the big deal, 2 of his 3 regular seasons have been subpar. And he just hasn't lived up to that contract. So I'm going to say 6 years, $200 million after 2 teams walked away because of the medicals, and he has subsequently had injury problems with both of his feet. Yep. I think it was just too big of a risk at that time. They quickly, I think, came to regret that.
I see that. I'm just going to say that Correa's highs were better than Donaldson's highs, and Donaldson's lows were worse than Correa's lows. So
I'm willing to concede that. I just feel like the contract itself was onerous enough. When we got word Thursday, that Houston wanted basically the Twins take on half the salary and get another player. Like that's a salary dump. That's a guy halfway through his contract that you're just that someone's just saying we'll take him, but it's a salary dump.
Hooray for the Twins!
Hooray for the Twins!
Yeah. They had to do it. They had to take that guy. He was not bringing it, and it will stink if he goes to Houston and rediscovers the Carlos Correa from 5 years ago. It's going to be hard to watch, but
it is.
It's better to move on right now. The other thing, too, Mike, I want to bring up, too, is that a year from now, we'll be in the middle of the 2026 season. And we're going to be sitting there wondering about Walker Jenkins, Emmanuel Rodriguez, and Kalen Culpepper. They may be all ready. All 3 may be ready to be promoted to the majors by then. And you have to think about the pathway available to them to do that. And that pathway is cleared now. For sure, because if Culpepper's a legitimate shortstop, you can move Brooks to second or third or back to second and put Culpepper at short next year when he's ready. So that's something to look forward to here.
Maybe Carlos will have those good signs to steal in Houston, and he'll get his offensive mojo back again.
Did you see what the Saints did? The Saints on Twitter are hilarious. They said, "We have signed a sponsor agreement to have a patch on our jersey." And the patch said, "Hello, my name is," with a
That's about it. It's going to get weird around here for 2 months, but it's been a week. Lavelle, thanks for hashing out with me. We'll talk to you again next week.
All right, take care.